Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm creating some Classic Mouse graduation cards using the new Classic Mouse graduation collection from Spellbinders. We have the Classic Mouse graduation die, and then we have the Classic Mouse graduation sentiments press plate and die set. So I'm going to be using both of these. Now, in the past, the Classic Mouse themed, like as in the Christmas and Valentine's collections, have coordinated with the Steamboat Willie Duo die set. In this one, it doesn't need that die set in order to create with it. I'm going to start with using the foil plates or the press plates. In my Glimmer system, I'm using some Hammermill Cardstock and Aura foil, and I'm just going to foil that nice tassel, the large tassel, as well as some of the sentiments. And then I'm going to solid hot foil it. I don't use the solid hot foiled pieces in this video, but you certainly could swap out some of the sentiments with the solid hot foiled pieces if you wanted them to stand out a little bit more. I thought the foiling for these would be perfect because of the extra elegance it gives. So when I solid hot foil, I replace my press plates with that solid hot foil plate, put the foil, the pretty side down, Hammermill Cardstock on top. I do give it a few extra seconds because that plate takes a little bit of time to warm up, and because we're solid hot foiling, I want to give it a little bit of extra time. Once that timer button has gone off and I've given it a few seconds, I put it through my die cutting machine to press that foil in place. When you're doing hot foiling, you need both the heat from the Glimmer system as well as the pressure from a die cutting machine in order to do it. I have a Platinum 6 machine. You can do it with some other machines as well, and Spellbinders has a list of compatible machines on their website. I'm using the coordinating dies to cut out those sentiments as well as that large tassel. That way it's ready to go as I'm creating. Now I do tape those dies in place with some Best Ever craft tape in order to make sure that they don't move and shimmy on me. I want to make sure that they're cutting out exactly where I want them to cut out. Now, the fun part about this collection is you can customize it to the school colors of whatever grad it's for. Now, I'm doing these in the colors of 3 local high schools. Now, you could use it as an elementary school grad card. You could also use it as a preschool grad card. I think that would be absolutely adorable. I love the fact that we have these numbers in here so you can customize it to any year that it works for. I'm doing them for the current year, but obviously these will work for many, many years because you can customize those to whatever year you're creating the grad card for. So here I have the 2026 die cut out of some Saffron Cardstock for the shadow and Cosmic Sky Cardstock for the upper layer of each one of those numbers. I have the grad cap die cut out of some Raven Cardstock. And then we have a little diploma with a ribbon that we're going to add as little accents. For my first card, I wanted to do some ink blending on that large tassel, and I'm going to use the Class of foiled sentiment. I just have some Chip Sapphire Distress ink. Again, this can be easily customized to whatever color that or school colors you're creating the card for, and I love the fact that you can customize it easily like that. Now I'm going to do the first one without the Classic Mouse grad die set other than the 2026. I'm not going to be doing a Mickey Mouse or a Classic Mouse on there. I'm going to be just using that tassel, doing the Class of with the foiled sentiment, and then just do 2026. It's going to be super simple, super elegant looking because of that foiled tassel. I have my upper layer for my card trimmed down to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches, and I'm using some Cosmic Sky Cardstock for the mat around that, and that is trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So you could easily just use the foiled images and then the year number if you didn't want to add a Classic Mouse to your particular card, but I do think they look absolutely adorable, and that's one of the reasons why I think this would be perfect for an elementary school or a kindergarten or preschool grad with that Classic Mouse on there. I think it's absolutely adorable. So we have that tassel glued onto the front towards the right side of the card. I typically do things that are longer towards the left side of the card, and I was going to do it that way, but at the last second I changed my mind and put it towards the right just for something a little bit different for me. I put the Class of foiled and ink blended sentiment on, and then I'm doing the 2026, and I want to make sure they're all nice and lined up. So I have a Card Maker T-Square. This is an A2 sized one from Pear Blossom Press that I'm using to help make sure that my numbers are all lined up perfectly. Now, typically I will just eyeball things. That's just typically the way that I create. But for this, I wanted to make sure that those numbers were all spaced evenly as well as lined up nice and straight. So that T-Square is perfect for that. It's very, very helpful. Then I'm adding my die cut and assembled grad cap to the top of the class of, and then the little diploma to the bottom of the 2026. So super simple card. It came together really quickly and easily. It probably took a lot longer to wait for my glimmer system to warm up than it did for creating the rest of that card. For my next one, I chose a different school's colors. I already assembled my 2026 because it's exactly the same as the last card. And I'm going to assemble my classic mouse here. I have the black and white die cut out of Raven and classic white cardstock. And then for the school colors for this one, I have that Saffron cardstock again, which is that yellow. And then I have some Merlot cardstock. Now I do make a mistake in here. When I'm putting the grad gown together, I start to assemble it off of the mouse. That is wrong. You want to put the back of the gown on the back of the mouse and then the front on the front. But you'll notice when I do it that I do realize before putting it onto the front of the mouse, and I correct myself. The pieces are really easy to put together. What I like to do is assemble everything close to where it gets assembled. That way I know I have all my pieces there ready to go. And I also don't have to thumb through a pile of pieces making sure or trying to find things while I'm creating. It just makes it a little bit more easy, a little bit more organized. This is where I did it wrong. I shouldn't have put that back yellow piece on there. I should have just put the pieces on the front of the jacket. And you'll notice when I go to put it on the front of the mouse that I realize that doesn't make any sense. There's no point in the back of the gown being in front of his shoes. Now, I like to use liquid glue for assembling die cuts. I have it in a fine line bottle, and that means that I can put as much or as little glue as I need on there. And then I can wiggle and shimmy those die cuts in place. It starts to grab fairly quickly, but we want to make sure that we can move it in place. We don't want to have to get perfect placement the very first time. For the shoes, I also used the school colors, but you could, again, use them in or create them in whatever colors you're wanting. There's a couple different shoes in this set, so you can customize it to the look that you're wanting to go with. And I love any die set that lets you choose or pick and choose different pieces. For the gown, I have those stripes down the front. There's also a couple other choices. There's some cords on there that you can add. There's also a V for the front of the gown, and I'll use that V for the next card and show you the comparison between the two. Again, I love when you can customize and choose things perfectly. This is where I realized that I shouldn't have put the front of the gown on the back. My glue has set, but it hasn't set completely, and it's enough that I can take those pieces off and I don't have to recut them. I can pull them off and then I can just assemble them with the body of the mouse in between there. It's going to make a lot more sense when the back of the gown is behind his legs and his shoes, and it's going to just look a whole lot better. So for the next one, I do the assembly for the next one mostly off screen because, again, it's the same as this one. But for the next one, I don't make that same mistake because I made the mistake the first time. Now for the mouse, I just used regular cardstock colors for this, but for if you wanted to add a little bit of flashiness to it, you could take that solid hot foiled piece and do some of your die cuts out of it. Like the ribbon on the diploma would be perfect on with that foiled piece. Another thing that I think would be great with the foiled piece is the little tassel on the grad cap, just to add a little bit of a metallic touch to it. I always love adding those little tiny accents to it, but for this one I kept it fairly plain, kept it just the school colors, and customized it that way. But those are different ways that you can change it up if you wanted. Isn't that adorable? I just think he looks so cute. He turned out so well. So now we're ready to start assembling our card while our little classic mouse is in the corner drying. I have a piece of Merlot cardstock that's going to be the mat for this card, and I have that trimmed to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. My white piece is trimmed to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. This mats are the same for all 3 cards. I just liked the layout. It was just nice and clean, and I wanted to focus on the details with the die cuts and the foiled accents. So once we have those pieces layered on there, for this one, I'm going to use one of the foiled sentiments with the 2026 towards the top and then the classic mouse towards the left-hand side of the card. For my next one, I'll change the layout totally. So there's different ways that you can do this. And I do vertical cards for these. I tend to prefer vertical cards, but you could certainly change it up and make them horizontal cards if you wanted. That would work quite easily as well. So I'm once again using that T-square ruler. There is some centering numbers on the side there, so I can make sure that it's at the center of my card and that I have those numbers lined up and I also have them centered. So I do the inside 2 letter or numbers first, then I do the outside 2. And I make sure to hold that ruler down to make sure it's not moving on me with the die cuts while I'm adding the die cuts to the card. So once I have that done, I just let that dry for a few moments. Now, typically when I'm creating, I also like to use stickles or glossy accents to add different textures. I don't do that for these, but you certainly could if you wanted to add a little bit of extra texture to it, a little bit of extra sparkle. I think that would work. So here I have the mouse pretty much done. For this gown, I'm using the V to the collar, so I'm adding that to the front there. And here you can see the difference between the two of them. It just gives a totally different look to the gown, but I think, again, just so adorable. This is another color combination from another local high school's colors. Perfect for creating with and customizing. I love when you can customize things to the person that you're giving it to. It always makes it a little bit more special when it's customized to their school colors or their likes or dislikes. So with this, I'm doing the layers exactly the same. I have some Cosmic Sky Cardstock trimmed to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Once again, an A2 card base. The inner part is trimmed down to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. For this card, I'm going to do the 2026 towards the bottom of the card, and I'm just going to curve it slightly. When I had my pieces laying down, the 2026 kind of curved below the mouse, and I just kind of liked that look. It was just different. So I put the mouse towards the top, the 2026 towards the bottom. I still have 2 foiled sentiments. I'm going to add them to the inside of the card. Originally, I had thought to add them to the front of the card, but it was just going to look a little bit too cluttered. So I wanted to try to keep it nice and neat, so I opted to just put it on the inside of the card. So I started with the 0 and the 2 in the center once again, and then I'm adding the 6 on the end as well as the 2 in the front, and I really like the look of that curved as well. You could easily, if you don't like that, you can easily put them completely flat. You don't have to curve it, but it does coordinate with the mouse quite nicely. So the last 2 sentiments I have is one that says "You did it," and then another one that says "So proud of you." Again, I just put them on the inside of the card. If you want them to be more prominent, you could take that Chip Sapphire Distress ink and ink blend on it. Another option would be to just use colored cardstock for the foiling, but because I wanted to customize these cards to different school colors, I didn't want to be limited to having it on colored cardstock because I wasn't sure exactly which sentiment I wanted for each one of those cards, but that is another option if you wanted. So here is that third card with the 2026 and the mouse on the front, the foiled sentiments on the inside. Then we have our second card with the 2026 towards the top, the mouse and the sentiment towards the bottom. And you'll find everything I've used listed and linked down in the description box below. So if there's anything you're curious about that I haven't mentioned, you'll likely find the answer down there. And then our very first one that is just a very simple but elegant card because of that foiling with that tassel, the class of 2026. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all the time that you spend with me. I hope you have a fantastic day.